Thank you again for being with us today. Happy International Women's Day for all the uh, females in the room and the guys if they like to as well, to acknowledge the Women's Month, Women's Day. And it's always good actually to highlight, I would say, like women's achievements, to push forward the agenda towards gender equality. And it's just a reminder that we do need more inclusion. We need, of course, more female representation in different sectors, different fields, such as entrepreneurship, such as technology, STEM more generally. So sciences, technology, engineering, mathematics, of course, board members, and management of corporations and many other places, in politics and leadership of countries. We definitely need more women, and we hope that with more women like arriving to the top, we'll have more compassion towards Earth and towards humanity, because this is what we need at the end of the day. Today, we're gonna talk again about ethics in entrepreneurship, and we're talking more closely at the second T, which is the Taawun part, or the cooperation part. And today I will not do the Menti like last time, but I will really stop towards the, like after, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. And I want to hear from each one of you about some potential ta'awun in your own projects or startups, and we can discuss this. So I personally have thought of dedicating most of the session to this discussion, and I would like to tell you guys that, like, even let's say if I and Rima are talking about ta'awun in her project, this is still relevant to all of you, even if you have different projects, because like a lot of the same concepts apply to everyone else. Personally, I really enjoy like hearing these like conversations between like startups, sometimes mentors, startups and coaches, because I learn a lot from them, even though the startup business that is being discussed is very different from what I'm working on in terms of entrepreneurship. However, I always can like find the relevance. I reflect on this conversation and see how this could apply to me. So I invite you to do the same thing and to benefit from these conversations as they happen. So now I will be sharing my screen, and I will, one second. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you, great. And again, like last time, whenever like we are discussing, I really appreciate if you can turn on your camera, show us yourself. We can maybe take a group photo as well for the records of the program. All right, so today we're talking about cooperation, ta'awun, and the objectives are still the same. So we want you to be able to take better decisions, to put your ethical values at the core of the business, always keep the human. And today we'll see how, look, what kind of humanity are we talking about when it comes to ta'awun. Of course, we want to help you do better ethical decisions, and we want you to build better teams, establish solid partnerships and valuable partnerships and collaborations based on the three T's. We agreed that ethics is vital for entrepreneurial success, and that we always have to keep this in mind, because this is what will make us credible, reputable, and we have to act upon our values. And of course, this is not difficult for you guys, because you're all part of the Design Post-COVID Humanity. These are some questions we asked ourselves last time. So how can we build our startup in an ethical way? How do we ensure that beneficiaries are treated ethically? How do we ensure that the team is ethical? And how to ensure that we are growing our business and team ethically? We will touch upon some of these today as well. This is something that we didn't have time to cover last time. So there are four pillars of ethical enterprises that we can discuss. The first one is fairness. And this is very relevant to our discussion today about Taawun, because we're talking about win-win. Okay, so is your business model based on win-win outcomes? And here it's not just about a business model, it could also apply to partnerships. So always this win-win term, I learned it actually during my teaching of ethics courses, and I want you to learn it as well and to use it during when you do meetings with potential partners. Win-win. We want a win-win. So it's this is why we partner usually. Okay, we always have to offer something, but at the same time we are expecting something in return. So this will be a win-win between the two partners and a win-win between the organizers of whatever is going on and the beneficiaries or the users or the customers as well. So you should always keep this win-win situation in your head and always think about it. Is it a win-win? Okay, so whatever concept you're discussing, project, potential collaboration, always ask yourself, is this a win-win? And you can maybe envision it as a balance, right? Like, is it balanced? Is it win for me, win for the society? Is it a win for me and my partner? Is it win for me and for my end users or beneficiaries or customers? Win for us and win for the environment. Okay, it should be always a win-win situation. Integrity: can your business's products or services be promoted with the truth? So do you are you always able to tell the truth transparently and without sugarcoating certain things? Or can you just, like, do you mind being how would I say, like, do you mind papers or magazines to write about the truth of what you're doing? So always like, this is one of the ethical tasks we used to do. Like there were several ethical tasks. One was like, if your mother knew about it, would you be ashamed or not? Right? Because we always want to make sure our mothers know that we're doing the right thing. Another one, what if that went on a cover of a magazine? So okay, and again, we're not just talking about what you say, but what the reality of what you're doing. Do you mind it being on the front page of a magazine? If you mind your mother knowing about it, or you mind it being on the front page of a magazine, then that's problematic, because it means that there's something fishy about this. Decency: can you unashamedly tell others about what your business does? So this is similar to what I just mentioned earlier. And sustainability: does your business make efficient use of resources? And again, remember, sustainability is a triple bottom line. We talk about people, prosperity, and the planet, or people, economy, and the society, and the environment. Okay, so these are some things that you need to know. Now, today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk more about Taawun, cooperation. And last time we said the Ta'aruf, which is acquaintance, and we talked about human-centered. Today, we're talking about values-based. And of course, still the human is at the center, but let us always keep in mind our values. Sorry. All right. And I want now to tackle that Taawun, although today maybe I'll focus more on the partnerships aspect of Taawun. Yet, I want you to know that Taawun can really mean many things. Okay. So first of all, we can talk about Taawun internally. So I have to have a cooperative team. Okay. Because if they do not cooperate, this is a bad sign. This is a red flag. This means that our team is not operating properly. I need internal cooperation with the board and the operation. So as you know, like, if you legally register your company, depending on the type, you might have a board and the operations team, which are two different things. Is the board being cooperative, let's say, with the CEO or the general manager who reports on the behalf of the operations team to the board? So there should be cooperation there. There should be communication. There should be willingness to help, like, clarify certain maybe question marks, certain issues, certain problems. Be willing to listen. Be willing to offer help. A lot of times you hire certain people to be on the board, you give them shares in return for their time to be on the advisory board and the board of directors, to give you their expertise, to give you connections, network, to connect you with new markets, so on and so forth. So there should be this willingness to cooperate, to have Taawun. Otherwise, you don't want them to be on board, really. Okay, and this is a decision you have to think about early on. Like, are these cooperative people? Can I have a two-way communication with them? Are they transparent? Do they really care about this endeavor, this venture, or this social enterprise? So keep all of these in mind. Another thing is, internally we can have different task forces that do different things. Okay, so just one example. For example, we can have actually a committee that deals with everything that has to do with ethics, and this committee should be also cooperative, yani, in between each other, amongst each other, and with the other teams in the company, or the other divisions. And sometimes the division is one person, doesn't have to be like a big corporation. It could be like we're four people, and we need, representing different divisions, and we need this kind of cooperation against each other. One is responsible for something, and he or she needs feedback from the others. So all of this is part of Taawun. So this is internally. Do you have any questions about internally? Because we're not gonna spend too much time today talking about the internal part. Or if you have any questions, we can take them now. So I want to hear from you guys. Okay, Rima says no questions. Anybody has any questions?
Yes, just a quick question. Is it always possible to have a board member within an entrepreneurship or board members?
Yes, board members, the concept of board members applies when you are talking about, like, first of all, when you are establishing a company, like if it's a joint stock company, for example, it will always have a board. And depending on, of course, your country of origin. Like in our country, I registered my company, Riyada, for social innovation as a joint stock company. So by law, we have to have a board of directors. Some other companies or startups, if they're not legally registered yet, and I know that you might not jump directly and register your company, and we do understand that, like you want to test first maybe, or validate some things before you register, you can invite some people to be on what you can call an advisory board. So it's an unofficial advisory board, because as long as the startup is not officially registered, legally registered, then everything is unofficial. So you can have a small team of advisory board members, and usually, how do you pick these people? They have to be subject matter experts in areas that your business operates in. So I'll give you an example. In our company, we work in social entrepreneurship, we work in technology. So, for example, how did I choose our board members? I thought of people I know who are experts in social entrepreneurship, and like we are doing e-learning, so they have some expertise in developing e-learning courses. Like we also want to do Arabic courses, so I chose some people who have this expertise already. Another one has corporate social responsibility, research expertise, like vast expertise. So I thought of people who would be of value, of added value to the company. And at the same time, they are well connected, they have regional reach. So if I want to ask them for like connections, how to penetrate new markets, I can do that as well. So this is usually how you like, and one is in technology, like as well. So you have to think, okay, what kind of advice do I need? What kind of experts do I need? And many times having these advisors on the website, in your communication, when you seek new partners, this will be an added value. So it will give you credibility, it will give you reputation, and it will help you in your throughout the journey, basically. Is that clear? Did I answer your question? All right. Any
Yes,
other?
it was. Thanks.
All right, so this is internally. If you have no more questions, I will move to the external part of Taawun, which is more about any cooperation I need to do with like outside the company. So what we talk about partnerships, we talk about my suppliers, and we talk about clients as well. Okay, and of course, even when you are picking your supplier, so now we will see like in a bit, how do I select my partners? What should I check? What are some questions I have to ask them? And what are some questions I have to research about to see if they are a good fit and to see if we are aligned in terms of our values. The same thing should apply to your suppliers as well. And by the way, sometimes when it comes to, for example, gaining certain certifications like ISO certifications, quality management certifications, environmental management certifications, and so on. A part of that certification process is to look at the suppliers and see if you have done also like a background check on them, if you are auditing certain aspects of how they do business. So, for example, they cannot be doing like environmental practices that harm the environment. They should not be involved in fraud or corruption or anything like that. So, this is also important. And of course, when it comes to client, we need to keep like a good relationship with our clients and have like a two-way communication with them to keep improving, doing better, making sure that our products and services work for them, they are really satisfying their needs and so on. So we talked a lot about ta'aruf last time, and here I think when it comes to client, ta'awun and ta'aruf really go nicely together. Uh, Okay, so now I really want to guys like open the discussion with you. So how to build partnerships ethically, and I will stop sharing my screen, and then after we are done with everybody, we will go back to the few slides that I have prepared. But I really want to open the discussion because this is the best way for you to capture anything from this session. And I want to make it not just interactive but meaningful to you. And my main question here is, what kind of partnerships do you believe you will need in your own social enterprise or project or startup, depending on how you would like to call it? And how do you plan to check, whether you have aligned values, if they are the right match, if you will have a win-win scenario, as you mentioned before. So can we do that? So I'll start in the order that I see in front of me in the participants list. Cynthia, would you like to tell us more about your project and potential partners you are thinking of? And this could be like, again, like it's a brainstorming exercise that everybody can benefit from. Because I'm sure that you guys, because you're still young, maybe not very experienced in this field, you might have not thoroughly thought of everything. So it's an opportunity to like think aloud and see if your logic makes sense and how maybe we can like add on it. Cynthia Shammas, would you like to share with us?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. About our project, so since it's a website or like a communication style, I think that we need as partners, psychologists or professionals, because they will be discussing with people, so they might, and they should not be like just educated, or some people who knows some things in psychology. So I think that they must be experts, well educated, also experienced and skilled, to be able to well communicate, to well understand the participants, let's say, or the clients. So that's mainly.
Let me interrupt you a little bit. So you are developing a platform that does what exactly? Can you remind me?
The communication with people to work on their mental and physical health.
Mhm. Okay, so you have two different parties on the platform. You have the end users who want this service, right? Who want to have a better life, and you have the experts who are either nutritionists or psychologists or I don't know what, and they are gonna be helping the end users. Is that correct?
Yes, right.
Okay. So, all right. So here I want you to think of both, by the way, as like you are sort of an Uber model, if I want to say so. In Uber, it's an example we frequently use because everybody like is familiar with it. Uber has two important parties that they cannot live without. Okay, the platform doesn't work without them, or the app in Uber's case. So the drivers who are really getting paid by Uber, right? So they are getting employed sort of, or like they gain financial return from Uber by providing their services to Uber clients. So we have also the Uber clients who are the passengers, which need to go from point A to B. Okay, so in terms of Uber, they recruit for both. Okay, so they like actively recruit both end users, so passengers, and drivers at the same time. And of course, they have different strategies to target both. You have to think a little bit similarly. So you have, because without the professions, so professions are not really partners, they are a vital part of your platform because without them, you cannot have the service, correct? Yes, so they are vital. So for me, I mean, you have to have the end users, you have to have the professionals. Now the question is, what kind of partnerships can you establish to have these on board? And especially when it comes to the professionals. So I cannot say I want to partner with the professionals. It's not very accurate. You have to partner with entities that will help you get these professionals on board. So, do you have any entity or organization in mind that can help you better access these professionals?
Yeah, maybe they might be NGOs because the professionals must be volunteers, most probably. So maybe NGOs, or maybe as I well understood, maybe we need some people to give us some capital for the website, since the web developers are a little bit, they take lots of money. So yeah.
Okay, so the capital is another thing. So you need some sponsors, let's say. Okay, but let's distinguish
Yes.
this from the partnership that is that there will be no exchange of money. So I'll give you an example. You tell me if it's right or wrong, because again, this is your project, not mine. So when we talk about, okay, I need to access psychologists, professionals, experts, nutritionists, you might think of the order of like a syndicate for psychologists, let's say, or groups of psychologists, let's say, or maybe a clinic that is specialized in psychology which has several psychologists, operating under it. These are the kinds of partnerships you want to think of. Ultimately, if you want to make it sustainable, you have to pay these people. They cannot be volunteers forever. Otherwise, this is not sustainable, because whenever you have somebody who's working for you on voluntary basis, you have no control over them. Okay, so like you have no indication whether they will commit to certain hours, because they're volunteering and you cannot tell them anything about it. So you have to think of a more sustainable way to do things. But ultimately, you can establish partnerships with, and here's where your research should, like, you should do some research. You have to look, okay, what groups of psychologists can I tap into? It could be some NGOs, as you mentioned. Yes, it could be the case, but you have to identify which types of NGOs, and you have to send them an email, make a phone call, and try to talk to them to establish this kind of partnership. The whole idea is I want to access these professionals again, whether volunteers or not, this is another, like, it's a later thing to talk about, but you have to think of, okay, what's the intermediary? Because, I mean, let's talk about marketing for a second. I mean, you're not gonna post on social media, for example, or you can do it, but like, how likely will it bring you the number you want? Like, I need psychologists. Okay, you might get, I don't know, 10, but if you need 100, this might not be enough. So you have to go to these partners that they can really get you to who you want to work with. A similar thing sometimes goes with my end users. So I also might need to partner with certain entities that will maybe they will send an email. If we don't want to take the email addresses and like personal information of their clients, they can send like, oh, you know, there's this platform, they're providing this service, maybe you want to check it out. So there could be multiple ways to partner, but what I want you, Cynthia, to think about is like, based on research, what are these groups or entities that make sense to us that we want to partner with? Maybe you want to show their logos on your website to add to your credibility, to your reputation. They are well connected. They can help you like reach your goals. And at the same time, I want you to think of what is your proposal to them, because remember, win-win. Okay, so whenever you call them, let's say, and tell them, you know, we're doing this and that, and we really need you to partner to help connect us with professional experts, you have to think what's their win. So we know what's your win because you want to access the professionals. What's their win? There should always be a win for them, and you usually have to highlight this win. So in your opinion, what could be their win if they partner with you?
Publicity. And Cynthia, same team, so.
Yes. Who just say?
Rima.
Rima. Okay. So publicity.
Yeah, for example, let's say the clinics we want to partner with them. They usually hold sessions face to face, so we could tell them, and we could you know, if they help us out by lending us their professionals online, then we could put their logo or the name of their organization on our page, and our clients who prefer face-to-face sessions would then, if we get clients that are not familiar with that organizations, after.
Yes, Rima. Rima got disconnected. Cynthia, do you have anything to add?
Could I possibly ask a question, please?
Yes.
Okay, when I mentioned about the sponsors or the people who might give us some capital, why did you tell me that they are not a relation of partnership? Can you just clarify this thing?
Because, I mean, no, it could be thought of as partnership, but I'm talking about partnerships where there is no exchange of money. Okay, because a lot of people, when you are seeking sponsorship, in case, I mean, I'm one of them, honestly. If somebody is like connecting with me and seeking sponsorship, if I don't have the money, I'm sorry, I don't have it, khalas. And that's it. We don't continue the conversation because it's clear what they want. So they want the money. If I don't have the money, I can't offer the money. But you might want to think of other, like, it would be short-sighted to only think of partners as sponsors, because there is much more than that. Okay, and so you have to identify this could be a sponsor. If not, maybe they could be a partner. Like in Riyadh, for example, in our social enterprise, we have like tons of partners, and a lot of them, they don't give us any money. So it's not always about exchange of money, because a lot of entities, if you like, and believe me, especially NGOs and things like that, they have daily requests like, we need your sponsorship, and sometimes they're just like, we don't have a capacity for that, so they will block you completely. So you don't want that to happen. You want to open a conversation, you want to discuss, because this could lead to other places. Okay, So there are different types of partnerships. Sometimes it could be what we call a community partnership. So they will just like sometimes, for example, I do a lot of like events as part of the social enterprise. Like we do awareness events, hackathons, trainings, so on. So we need people or entities to spread the word about this, but they don't pay us money. We don't pay them money. Okay, but they just spread the word to the right audience. So we call them community partners, and we acknowledge them on that basis. We include them in the poster of the event. We give them credit. We maybe have a few speakers from their side. We acknowledge them in the opening, closing ceremonies, things like that. Because again, it's a win-win. Like they helped us spread the word. We help them by acknowledging their name, by putting their logo, etc. So it doesn't always have to be an exchange of money, because again, sponsorship is a type of partnership, but it's a very specific type. And at the very beginning, I would say, if I want to give you a piece of advice, start with partnerships that don't cost money, that don't need money. Okay, because it would be much stronger if you go to a sponsor while saying, I have these partners. You know what I mean? Than if you don't have any partners and you just go like, I want your money. I want sponsorship. You have a much weaker case. Okay.
So we have to seek like a way to communicate or to say an organization that will help us to find professionals or specialists, something like this, you mean? And
Yeah.
we have to know how to exchange and communicate with them, like having like we give them something and they do something in return.
You have to do a preparation, and now we'll continue with the rest. Yeah, we'll talk more about this. You have to prepare ahead of time. What are the points you would like to discuss in the meeting? So the very first thing you usually do, you reach out, whether it's over social media or email or phone. You say like, we're really interested to have a meeting. So what are the points you want to discuss in the meeting? You have to prepare them ahead of time. You have to think about them. You have to definitely think of the win-win. You have to have a very brief yet straight to the point description of who you are, what you are doing, some traction. So it's like the pitch, if you want to say. You can actually do the same pitch that you presented earlier. And if it's visual, it will help. If there's a story, that will really help, because you want them to get interested. And after they get interested, they will ask you, and that's definite, they will ask you like, okay, what do you expect from us? What do you need from us? And again, this shouldn't be, I need your money, because خلاص, yeah, they just say, okay, it doesn't work. Most probably they'll tell you it doesn't work. So you don't want to do that. You should have thought of other non-financial benefits that you want. And in return, you have to, sometimes they won't ask what's in it for us, but this is always something that you have to know, that you need to talk about it. Like you have to tell them what's in it for them, so that they're even more interested. And at least have one idea. I've had in the past some meetings where I really didn't know what kind of partnership I was looking for, and that led nowhere. Like you should always have at least one idea of what kind of partnership I need. And always my tip to you is say, but like we're more open-minded if you think there are more avenues for collaboration, because sometimes they have their own ideas and they might recognize that there is like a room for some collaboration that you haven't thought of before. So you want to keep this door open, but at least you want to have like one idea to pitch. Like I want you to like send an email to your network of psychologist professionals, asking them to be part of our platform. All they need to is like fill the form, and I don't know, and we'll acknowledge you on the website. We'll do a few posts about you on social media. You have to think about it. Okay, but you have to have at least like one idea, and definitely say, but we're also open for like other ways to collaborate if you have anything in mind, or you would like to keep discussing this later. Like always keep this room for collaboration. Okay, sounds good?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. Ibrahim? Ibrahim, what about your endeavor or project, what kind of partnerships do you think you need? Also, if you can just tell us very briefly first about what you're doing to refresh our memory, and then we can discuss more.
All right. First of all, let me try to give a brief information about our project. Basically, our project is about Syrian refugees. We are trying to incorporate them at their various camps. That is specifically in the health sector. We want Syrians to be involved in those that are responsible to give health services to those refugees. So basically, that's the main idea about our project. And when it comes to the issue of partnership, what we have noticed so far is that uh, those partners that we are looking up to are also our potential sponsors, because as refugees initiative, there is no other way you can actually do such initiative without involving those that are responsible for those refugees. We are not going to take the responsibility of those refugees. All we are trying to do is to try to better their lives while they are refugees. So we will need to partner with those people that are responsible to take care of them at those various camps. And those are the same people that we think we have to look up to for sponsorship, because the idea of supporting those refugees and our ideas of helping those refugees is somehow interrelated. So that's what we think we can do when it comes to partnership. Of course, maybe we may guide other people as well that are not basically involved in refugee issues, but might be a help to us when it comes to let's say taking our initiative forward.
Okay.
So basically, it is a website that we have created, and by that website, we will be able to access our refugees that are in the health sector, mainly students, nurses, and doctors that will be able to have access to and to be able to direct them to those various camps that we have targeted. And basically, we will just be serving as middlemen between those refugee camps and those organizations that are also in services for refugees.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I remember your project very well. So basically, Ibrahim, again, and also based on Cynthia's comment about the sponsorship thing, my advice is always do not limit the partnership to sponsorship. Like maybe if you want to talk to UNHCR, for example, in your case, as you mentioned, you need them, and I agree, you need them, otherwise you can't do anything. So you need them to be partners. This is correct. But do they have to sponsor you? I don't think so. What you can do is come up with this, first of all, try to reach out to them, have a meeting with them, or a call or a virtual meeting, and prepare, again, ahead of time, a list of potential items on which you would like to collaborate. So for me, one of the most important things that you need is you need them to connect you somehow with refugees. You need their permission or their approval, or you need a certain, again, I don't know if they give you the database, but they can do the communication on your behalf. Okay, so you need that definitely. So this is a must. But when it comes to sponsorship, always say, okay, I have these 4 or 5 points I would like to discuss with you, and maybe keep the sponsorship until the end, because you don't want to show them that you're only seeking their sponsorship. Again, guys, there is a lot of contention. I know that you need the money, and I understand that. However, you need to also understand the position of those entities. They have people knocking on their doors on a daily basis, asking for their money. Okay, so they are sort of, let's be realistic, they're sort of fed up. Okay, and if they just hear you're in here for the money, they're just gonna say, no, we don't have more money for this. But if you convince them, and this is where the ethics comes into play, if you convince them that what you're trying to do is worthwhile, that it is well thought of, that it is sustainable, that it is based on values, that it will have an impact and everything. And you have other proposals to them, not just I want your money, but like this is your win, this is the benefit you'll get out of it, this is the benefit that your community will get out of it, then they might be convinced, and this might lead to sponsorship. Okay, but again, don't just like approach somebody like I need your money. I know you're not gonna say that, but by just saying like a request for sponsorship or need for sponsorship or meeting to discuss sponsorship, you have much bigger chances of being rejected. And again, it is the painful truth of this life. There's a lot of contention over these resources, and it is true, they are limited. For us, they might seem like they have a lot of money. However, they are limited, and they have a lot they're working on and a lot of entities that they're trying to help. So it all goes back to how much you can be convincing, how much you can be aligned with their values, what's the story that you are selling them, what's the impact that you're after, and never just have like I need sponsorship, nothing else. Because if somebody is coming to me, it happened to me 2-3 weeks ago, somebody was discussing like we need your sponsorship. I told her we don't provide sponsorship, I'm sorry. And she was like annoyed, and the meeting didn't go well. But if she had mentioned other kinds of collaborations, I would have been very like I would have communicated differently, you know what I mean? And I'm not an NGO or a donor agency, so imagine what the donor agencies would feel, or like how they would think about this. So this is very important. Okay, and I would like to hear from the rest about this point, since it's being raised, like partner/sponsor. How do you see they work together, or how do you see that they might conflict together? If anybody has any ideas about how to approach this, I would like to really to like hear from more people. Who would like to tell me about sponsor/partner? Like, do they work hand in hand? Should we be careful there? What should we do?
Careful with what?
About mixing partnerships with sponsorships.
Okay. What do they expect in return? Don't both of them, I mean, a partner, it has to be win-win in both cases. I don't know, what does a sponsor expect back? Does a sponsor and the partner, do they expect the same thing?
Sponsor, maybe they expect more. They would expect more in return because they're actually giving you money, right? So there will be more expectations. There will be like specific KPIs, specific, things you have to achieve with the money. You have to periodically report to them. You have to sometimes, as part of the agreement, and here is where you need to have some agreements with your partners. You have to have a certain format. You have to make sure that the content is comprehensive, it's legal, it protects your rights and their rights as well.
A signed document, like a contract or something?
Yes, it's much better to have a signed contract.
What if it's a grant?
No.
What if it's a grant?
Also, always grants will have signed agreements. Any like official body will have a signed agreement with you. Otherwise, they won't do it. Like they will need a signed agreement. So usually, if you are a very like new, unregistered venture or startup or project, they will have the templates. They will have the agreement. So the registered party will usually have the agreement. So this is what happened with us. So like the first partnership was with a telecom operator. So they provide us with the agreement and we signed. Now
what did
sometimes
you give back?
We actually gained like the first partnership. I didn't ask for money. I just asked for two things. I asked for premises, like a place to conduct the training program, and I asked to put their name on the because for me, it was publicity for me as well, like for the program, okay, because it was a reputable name. So, and sometimes, yes, if like a partner is reputable, they will not just like be grateful or thankful for you to put their logo, because they know that putting their logo is a plus for you, it's a win for you. So you have
They're
to
advertising for you, not the other way around.
Yeah, so it's for both. I mean, in their case, they liked it because it was a youth innovation program. It fit very well with their CSR, with their corporate social responsibility. So they included it as part of their annual activities. And as I mentioned, we asked for the premises, for the logo, and we asked for them to promote it on their social media accounts, because they had like tens of thousands of followers, where we had a few hundred, let's say. So this was it, and we didn't ask for any money. And the second year, and we actually involved them in, like, we asked them to be part of the jury, we asked them to be part of the opening ceremony. Their CEO was like like, he was so happy to see that, and he was part of the he came talk to the students. Their CTO also came on another day, and then during the closing ceremony, they were like part of our jury. And then they offered things that we haven't like agreed on, like they did a TV promotion for the program, so we were like on TV for free for us, like they paid for that. And the next year they offered to sponsor the program, so it was very organic. But I mean, for me, it would have been absurd, honestly, to ask them for money at first, because why would they trust? Like, it was a new company, no track record, no history, nothing. Like, why would they give me money?
I have a question.
Sure.
How was the second time around when they decided to sponsor you? What did you end up doing with that money? And you seem to have been able to carry out the plan and the program, obviously very well enough without needing sponsorship. You just needed a place, and you already had all the info or program ready. So the next time around when they sponsored you, what did that change with
What changed is that the first time around we made the trainees pay the money. So somebody has to pay the cost. So the first time we didn't have sponsorship, so we asked the trainees to pay the money, and we had to really innovate. And maybe I mentioned this in one of the sessions when I talked, I believe, about business model. Like, we had some sponsorship packages from philanthropists. We talked to a school, so we had a very hybrid business model. Some people paid the full fee, some people paid half the fee, some people paid nothing. So it was really a very hybrid model. And it wasn't the best model to use, although it worked. And the second year around, like, the company asked us, what did you do? We told them we did this and that. And they said, what if we wanted to provide this for free for the trainees? We mentioned that somebody has to incur that cost. And they said, yeah, we'll do it. So we didn't make the trainees pay anything the next year around, okay, because the cost was covered by the company itself.
Why do you think they chose to cover the costs? Were they worried that participants would not want to come the second time around because of having to pay a fee?
No, here we had a plan. Actually, we did something called like a commitment fee, and this is something that you do with discussion. And like we said, we want them to pay a very small fee to make sure they are committed to the program, because we have a limited capacity, and we're afraid that if it's completely for free, they might not show up. And then we would have like taken this from somebody else. So so they agreed, and this is what we did basically. And we agreed on all the details, like on the application form, because it was a partnership. And the second time around, it was called like Touch. The name of the company is Touch. Was called Touch Riyada Robotics for Good. So their name came first, and they were like, they co-owned the program actually. So when it is like, yeah, when they sponsor you, sometimes they have their own conditions, whereas when they hadn't sponsored us, like, their name wasn't part of the program itself. So for us, it wasn't a problem, but some others might have a problem with that. So there are other costs with sponsorships, but like, yeah, I need you to understand that a partnership doesn't always have to be about the money. It's always about, like, again, the win-win, what they have. I mean, even the first time, I won a lot from them being on board, even though they did not pay any money. And now, by the way, they don't pay any more money, because of a lot of things. They wanted to, but they couldn't, and we are still partnering together. So it's not just about the money. So I need you to really keep this in mind. All right, let's maybe, so I hope, Ibrahim, this is clear. Again, sponsorship could be like one of the proposed items, but I don't recommend that it's the only one, because you're closing doors if they're not interested, especially the very first time around. Like, again, and this is I think it's everybody's case. Like, you have no history, you have no reputation, you just have like an idea. Why would anybody trust you? Like, you have to start somewhere, and this is why we often start with partnerships that do not involve exchange of money, and we build upon those partnerships to get sponsorship. You know what I mean? So like next year round, when I went to some other organization and said, like, we partnered with Touch, we partnered with I don't know who and I don't know what, they were impressed. And they thought, oh, like if you've partnered with them, then probably you are trustworthy. We're going to partner with you as well. Okay, so this is how it goes. You have to start somewhere. And oftentimes you have to start somewhere where it's easy to start. So probably there's no money involved there. Okay, let's move to Musa. Musa Al-Hassan, Chroma. Okay. Sabika, maybe you want to go next?
Yes, sure. So our idea or our project is basically on providing access to mainstream education for students with special needs, specific needs of any sort. So this is through a class management app like Class Dojo, if anyone's familiar. And basically what it would include, the winning value added is to basically have lessons within that app that are differentiated for different learning styles. It provides plugins for accessibility. So for instance, a blind person can put in their plug in their Braille keyboard and be able to access the same lesson as a non-blind student. So things like that. And we're talking in terms of cooperation with other partners. We would potentially need investors for building the app ground up, and we would need experts such as educational experts, educational psychologists who are familiar with differentiating lessons for different needs. We would need curriculum experts. And then one of our potential partners that we have thought of as well is, for instance, providers of accessible equipment. So people who provide accessible technologies like Braille keyboards, like there are these accessible mice, but they're targeted towards, for instance, children with cerebral palsy whose hands work only at particular angles. Just all these other technologies that are out there. Noise cancellation headphones, for instance, is to be able to still access the content, but without all that surrounding sensory noise. So this has been part of our discussions in terms of collaborations.
Okay, this is great. And again, Sabika, on the same lines that we were talking about, I would like to tell you that I would say approach these potential partners and propose in-kind support and not financial support. And honestly, I believe in-kind will favor you better than financial, because when you said like we needed a certain type of equipment. So for example, you would approach the equipment providers and you would say like, we want you to partner and we need an in-kind support from you by donating this number of, you should have like, a clear idea in mind. So this number of keyboards, this number of monitors, I don't know what you need. And you have to tell them again, what's the win for them? Like we will do several مثلا media posts, social media posts. We will also have acknowledge you on I don't know, the annual report we're going to be sending at the end of the year. We're going to have a sticker on the equipment that says it's generously provided by I don't know who. So when the students are using them, we'll be able to claim, you know, this to you, so on. So this will be, although, I mean, if you think about it, these equipment, they cost actual money, right? Like they cost money. But if you are asking for in-kind support, it's also easier for partners or companies to accept than if you ask for financial support. So this is another trick that you can use. Another thing, when you talked about investors, when it comes to the development of certain technology, you can ask some companies for their time. Okay, so meaning, and a lot of companies, they have employee volunteer programs where they, as part of their corporate social responsibility, where their employees work for a specific number of volunteering hours to support certain causes in the society. So since you are a social enterprise, you are working towards a social cause, here you look at the companies that have value, that have similar values, that care about accessibility, and you approach them that I need some volunteers from your employees, okay? And you have to have a scope of work, okay? So this is, again, not, you're approaching the company, the credit will go to the company and not to the employees themselves. But the company, how does it benefit? Because they will report these hours as volunteering hours for their employees in their CSR program. So, and again, you have to tell them what's the win. Okay, their win is their CSR, but what else? How are you going to acknowledge them? Maybe, for example, you can say, we will invite you to have a talk with the schools about and like about your company and what you're doing to put you know, accessibility forward. I don't know if that makes sense. So again, guys, I really advise you to like, if you can find ways to collaborate and to get support in a non-financial format, it's much better than.
Can I also, sorry, just mention 2 points, because just in terms of the 2 different partners that we spoke about. So in terms of equipment and all of that, it also did strike us that, for instance, we have accessible technology provider here called Superbuyer, and they would have these inventories of older generation equipment that is still absolutely usable at this point in time. So in a win-win situation, it would be maybe appealing to just the one version before in order to clear some of their inventory, as a possible option to pursue. And then another point that that does come to mind, and what we can also provide is, because this would be extremely novel in this country. So potential possibilities, and we're talking about educational psychologists and so on and so forth, is that with, of course, all the right agreements in place, could be a potential experimental ground in order to do research and all of that. So that could be potential in kind as well, to provide this perfect environment in order to conduct these experiments on learning styles and so on and so forth.
Yes, totally. And again, this is a similar comment to the one I gave Cynthia and Rima. So if you go to a body of like of psychologists, like a syndicate, an order, I don't know, like a clinic where they have lots of specialists working for them, you have better chances there. If you go to an individual's capacity is usually limited. So although they might love to partner with you, but they might not have the capacity to do it. However, if you partner with a company or an institution or an organization or an NGO, you have much better chances there. Plus, it's easier for you to credit them and to acknowledge them, because you just have the company name instead of like, it looks, I mean, honestly, it doesn't look good to have a person name on like your on a flyer or on an announcement or in a social media post. So also you have to do your research and look, okay, who might be interested in this? And I want to tell all of you guys, you need to like be a bit brave and courageous and conduct some of these meetings. And I promise you from now that some of these meetings will fail. They will not get you where you wanted to, or how they will not go the way you envisioned them to. But this is the only way you learn. So maybe you want to start with not your biggest shot, right? Like you want to start with something, you know, in between, and try and see how you can improve your communication skills and technique, and like how you can better touch upon the win-win scenario, because it does take some practice. It does take some experience to really do this well. Um, but you'll get better. And again, as I told you, you have to have in mind, like, okay, how could this in a very preliminary form look like? And then I'll keep room for more discussion. But you cannot go to a meeting where you say, like, we really think we need to partner, but like, I have no clue how we can do that, or like, I just need your money and nothing else. Because again, if they tell you like, okay, what other than the money do you need, and you couldn't know, that's very bad. So I'm glad that you are telling me I need this and this and that. So that these are all alternatives from financial support. That's great. Let's move to Salma. So Salma was saying she cannot speak. For Hiya Huna, we want to partner with other women empowerment organizations. We plan to contact them on social media and tell them about our initiative and how it intersects with theirs. And then from there, we'd see if we could collaborate on certain issues, topics, and offer each other help. Okay, so Salma, what's most important is that, again, you think of the win-win. Sometimes you need more than social media, because depending on the size of the NGO that you're trying to contact, if they are a large NGO, then probably the person who's handling the social media is far from the top management of the NGO. So you want to get to the top. And usually, like I've learned this the hard way, you should always seek to talk with the top, okay? Because if you just talk with like the staff that are not decision makers, you might not arrive anywhere. So you have to seek for the top. And like we can simply say, like, we would like to have a meeting with the general manager, like, or I don't know, the director or whatever it's called. And if they said like they know it's not possible, then they'll probably bring you one layer down the line, and not just, you know, not to 3, 4, 5 layers down the line. So it's always better to seek the top. And even if you couldn't get there, at least you'll talk to a decision maker, like a manager or something, or someone who can better help you. Because also they'd be more experienced, they would have witnessed other collaborations, they might have some ideas for you, and you'll have a better sense of the values of the partner, as we're gonna be seeing shortly. So can you give us some examples on common collaboration elements or grounds, so we can just ask the company if it applies CSR? Rima, this is part of your research, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about this after I finish from Citi. Citi Hajar, would you like to also walk us through any ideas you have on potential collaborations or partnerships? So I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Citi Hajar? Citi Hajar. Okay, I don't know if she's listening.
So, Mana, I wanted to mention something like, hi, everyone. Everyone keeps saying CSR, and most companies still do a lot of CSR. But I wanted to like point out something, is that a lot of companies now are not just calling it CSR anymore, and they're having doing good is becoming part of their business model. So it's becoming at the core of the business model. So another way to think of it would be how does what you're offering, how can it be incorporated in their business model? So how could you offer them something, even if it's not, how could you offer them anything that would have a return on investment and be helping them to do good? So like in my previous job, we had like various collaborations with sometimes like brands that are not so well known, but they would increase our return on investments. So مثلا, we would do a marketing campaign and we would say like 10% of the proceeds would go to this person or to this charity, or and it would boost our return on investment. So I just wanted to like just it's crossed my mind, so I thought I would mention it.
Definitely. No, I totally agree, Yasmin. And yes, for example, I remember when I was talking to Nestle a few years back and I mentioned CSR, like I was talking with their general manager in Lebanon, and she told me, no, we don't do CSR, like we do CSV, which is corporate shared value. Yes, you might find different names, you might find different ways they do this. So this is where your research comes into play. You have to look them up, read about them, check their website, read some reports before you talk to them. And honestly, when you do this research and you understand what other, for example, collaborations or partnerships they've done in the past, you will have much better chances to interest them. And honestly, by just like by them realizing that you've done your research and you have looked at what they've done before, you're gonna be like respected in their eyes, because they would know like, oh, you've done your homework, and they will appreciate it. So especially that you need them at first, like they don't really need you at first, you need them. So you have to do the extra step and like do all the preparation, the research, and so on. Thank you, Yasmin, for sharing that. And okay, so I would like to cover in the next 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, yes, 15 minutes, a few things to keep in mind when it comes to Taawun, or as you said, partnerships, collaboration. So first of all, you have to get to know who you want to work with and establish a connection. So this is based on your research, and you should know the area you're working in like better than anybody else. And research is not just by like doing online search. Honestly, you have to talk to people. You have to really do everything you can to get to these potential names for collaboration. Names, again, not individual names, but names of companies or corporations or organizations or NGOs. And the next step is that you have to, so here it says, ask questions and understand their goals. I will tell you that it's the other way around. So they want to understand your goals, and they want, because again, you need them at first more than they need you. They want to find out what you want to accomplish, and in the short and long term. And many times they will ask you, would this be sustainable, or is it a one-time thing? And for example, now when I talk about partnerships, I've learned this like through experience. I mentioned something about strategic partnership, and I say like, we hope this won't be a one-time thing, but it would rather result in a strategic and a long-term relationship and partnership. And this year we are signing for the first time MOUs with some organizations as strategic partners. Okay, so this comes with time. You cannot from the first meeting tell them we would like to sign a strategic partnership agreement. Again, let's be realistic, they will not do it. But with time, when you have a good relationship for a few years, you can definitely do that. The stage of relationship building, you should have done your research to understand how are you alike, what are some differences, what are the unique skills that each one of you can bring to the table. And here is where you need to highlight this. So for example, if you believe that they're really good at something, but you can help with something that they lack, you can say like, this is what we can offer. This is how our work complements your work. This is how we're gonna add value to your work if you partner with us. So you have to pinpoint these, I don't want to call them gaps, because you shouldn't say like, oh, we've realized, a gap, or you lack something. Like, don't use that kind of terminology. But you have to highlight how, again, you complement their work, how you enrich their work, how you make it better. What are you adding to their offering, basically, that is currently not there? Okay. So these are some things you have to think about. One thing that you should be careful about, and this related to again like the ethical part, never like disregard some partnerships or some collaborations because of what we call implicit biases. And honestly, we are like, we have a lot of unconscious biases as human beings, who were brought up in a certain culture, in a certain place, with certain, you know, prejudices and so on. No one is perfect, but you should always, again, this, the internal ta'awun can help you figure this out. Like if you have this clear communication with your team, and you can say like, you know, for example, I don't know, 1 year later you were approached by a partner, by a potential partner, and for some reason you didn't think it was a good idea, it will be better if you discuss this with the team, because you might have some unconscious biases or implicit biases which might be like harmful or might ruin your reputation with time, or you might be really going against your values and against your ethics. So you want to make sure that you are not just like putting an X over some potential collaborations or partnerships or ta'awun because of these unconscious or implicit biases. I just have maybe something in the chat. Okay. All right. A very important thing that you have to do is identify shared values. Okay. And this is like, this should constitute a big part of your narrative when you talk to them. So again, this is part of your research or background homework. It's your homework that you have to prepare before you talk to the potential partner. What are your shared values? Okay, you have to talk about them. And you have to give them like specific examples of how this should work. And here, for example, it says if if they are like, for example, very timely and they want everything to be very meticulous, like reports to be submitted on time, and you don't have this in your team, then there might be a clash somewhere. So you have to know this ahead of time, and you have to adapt and manage the relationship according to these values. At the same time, you should always think of again, what are the strengths you are bringing, what are the differences you have, and how to bridge this gap between the two. Get references. So this also applies to suppliers. As I mentioned, a lot of time when you have certifications, you need to have documentation of how you chose the supplier. Have you done a background check? Similar thing applies to partnerships. So it's not just, for example, I talk to this company because they have a lot of followers and they would be a good addition on my, I don't know, on my page. No, there should be other reasons. So have you done a history check? Do they have a good reputation? Are they known for their ethical work? Are they known for their values? We have to put also, like internally with your team, you have to put some guidelines on what kind of partners you don't want to partner with, what kind of organizations you don't want to partner with. So for example, if they are harming the environment, or if they have controversial products like tobacco, or like other controversial products. Tobacco is, I think, one of the most known examples there. So this is something you want to have a conversation internally about. Who do you want to partner with, and what kind of organizations do you want to stay away from? This could also have some political connotations. So sometimes, for example, there is certain embargo on certain countries, on certain politically affiliated groups, on certain religious groups, and you have to take this decision. Do we want to, let's say, follow the US in terms of who they deal with and who they don't deal with, or no, we want to have our own? Because if you are dealing with some partners that are blacklisted in the US, for example, you might be putting some other potential partners in jeopardy. So because the US partners will never work with you anymore if you are dealing with blacklisted, let's say, partners, especially we're talking about this region, the Middle East area. Okay, I won't go into more depth. I hope you know what I'm talking about. At the same time, you have to sometimes like listen to your intuition. If you feel that there's something going wrong, if you feel that you're being asked to do something that you're not sure about, make sure to like press the brakes, make sure to involve more people in this decision-making process, make sure to review the entire plan, to assess the pros and the cons, the ethical implications, the impact. Again, is it a win-win? Is it maybe a win on the short run, but a loss at the long run? You have to assess all of this before you sign agreements or be associated with certain organizations as partnerships. And I think this may be the last slide. We have to, yes, this is the last slide, establish trust. So this notion of trust is very important. And honestly, this is what makes partnerships sustainable. And again, I mentioned something about like strategic partnership. I want you to keep this term in mind. So like two terms in mind, win-win and strategic partnership. If you just want to take like away two terms from today, win-win and strategic partnership, because the whole idea of partnerships, guys, is that it shouldn't be a short-term one. It should be a long-term one. It should be a partnership that you leverage on to do better. You leverage on to reach places that you weren't able to reach on your own. So how do you, again, after identifying shared values, after defining your roles, your responsibilities, and probably this will be written down, okay? After having code of conduct, you have to be transparent with your partners about your vision and about what you have in mind. You have to establish trust. So this whole thing about trust is very important. And this is where the formal agreements come into play, because it ensures that we will abide by our roles and responsibilities. And usually agreements are two-sided. So two parties will sign and they will list the responsibilities of both parties, not just one of them. So it's very important that you do that. It's good practice to consult with a lawyer when you do that as well. And always keep in mind that when you collaborate with the right people / organizations / institutions / NGOs, you will make your business stronger. It will again make it grow, make it succeed, make it more reputable, more credible. It will open up new opportunities for partnerships, for revenues. It will be able to reach maybe new markets, depending, of course, on the types of partnership, and it will make your business stronger in general. So this is why we do partnerships. This is why we do collaborations. And if you remember when we talked about the theory of change, we said that collaborations are very much needed for social enterprises at the beginning of their lifetime, because we don't have a lot of resources. And this is where Taawun really comes into play. But you have to keep everything we talked about today in mind, especially having shared values, and always having win-win, and always having a relationship that ultimately serves our bigger purpose, serves the cause, serves the vision that we have and the impact that we want to create. So with that, I'm done with my with the material. I mean, I hope it was fruitful. I hope that you learned something today that you can actually apply in your businesses, in your ventures. I invite you to really look again at what are the potential partnerships, and based on personal experience, I tell you the best place to start is partnerships, is collaborations. And there is like, it's not too early, I would say, to start contacting potential collaborators and partners. And again, don't just ask them for the money, because this will be a repellent, okay? And you don't want to do that. So my advice to you, I don't think honestly you're ready to take the money yet, because you should have better planning before you seek financial support, because once the financial support comes in, this is a burden, and you have to know how to use the money, how to use it efficiently, how to use it effectively. You have to have a plan, you have to have people who are willing to work, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure all of these conditions are met. This is why now start to establish these partnerships and collaborations without asking for money first, and organically this will happen. And again, you have to learn, you have to gain experience on how to talk to partners, how to think about the win-win, how to come up with a proposal. Sometimes they will ask you to write a proposal, so to have a written proposal. So you have to go online, find a proposal template, adapt it. Of course, it will start with your purpose, your vision, and your mission, what you want to achieve, the overview of what you're trying to propose, the timeline. A lot of things will be involved there. Again, the roles and responsibilities, the values, what's in it for you, what's in it for them. So sometimes they will ask you like, yes, if you can send us like a proposal and we'll look at it. You have to have this written down. So there is a lot to be done, and it's very important that you start already looking into this. You start doing your research, your background check, your homework, in terms of understanding who are the best matches for you, what's in it for them. And always remember, like, for example, Cynthia, you were talking about, Cynthia and Rima, like this platform, it doesn't need to start with a platform right away. So we talked in prototyping, you can have a very low fidelity prototype. This could actually be like something like a WhatsApp group, okay? And like you can be connecting professionals to people who need them over WhatsApp. So you can actually start testing your model. You can start testing what you're envisioning in a much like less sophisticated way. Same thing applies to Sabika, for example. You don't directly have to have like lots of technology. You might want to start with a small thing. Maybe you go to an NGO that cares for people or children with certain disabilities. Maybe you want to rent one of the equipment that you have in mind and check how you can make it work with them. There's a lot of experimentation to be done, a lot of learning before you go and ask for investment. But again, it's a good practice to start talking to potential partners from now, running them what you have in mind, and like doing this whole exercise of, okay, what do I want to ask them for? How do I do it? What do I want to propose? How do I communicate? Because these are skills that you only learn by doing. No matter if I spend 10 hours now like training you, it's not the same. When you're gonna do them, it's gonna be very different. Okay, so you really have to do that in order to learn. And with that, I mean, that's it for me for today. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to take them. And of course, don't forget that next week we have the last session of this series of ethics and entrepreneurship. And we're going to talk about the third T, which is Tarahum. And as I promised, I'll try to get you a guest as well. And I hope it will be very interesting. I mean, I hope that was fruitful. I don't like to be very theoretical, but I tried to make it as practical as possible. If you have, again, any questions, I'm here and I'm all ears. Any questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
I also don't have question. Thank you so much for the session. I think it was helpful and fruitful as well.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
You're welcome.
All right. So with that, I thank everybody and I see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you. See you.
See you. Bye.
agree with you.